I need to feel something. I can't do a show and not have it hurt a little bit.
So, like, this is the Hives. They're kind of what I would call masters of the hook. When I first heard them in the year 2000, I didn't know a band could be this good. When they said, "We're the Hives and we're your new favorite band," they were right. They were. There was an electric charisma about the way every member played their instruments. Then, lead singer Pele was on a whole nother level. It was unlike anything my 14-year-old brain has ever encountered before. The only person to have a comparable TV charisma level would be someone like The Rock. And in my opinion, The Rock is still playing catch-up to the Hives. They formed in high school as a punk band. They blew up in popularity 9 years later during the garage revival era of the early 2000s. And they're still going to this day. No hiatus and with no sign of slowing down. Just pure adrenaline and ambition. 32 years on and they're still going just as strong as ever, if not even stronger. To be on an upward trajectory this late into a rock band's career is truly a rare sight to behold. From punk to garage to 60s doo-wop and back again, this is the entire story of the Hives, or whatever. Likes and subs. Let's go. Our story starts in a tiny Swedish village known as Fagersta in the early 90s. Population 11,000. Brothers Pele and Nicholas would develop an interest in music very early on in their lives. As 7- and 8-year-old boys, they were enamored with the AC/DC style of rock and roll music. They discovered punk rock when they were about 12 and immediately enveloped themselves into that spirit and sound. A Napalm Death show would be Pele's first concert. And I gotta say, that's one hell of a band to see as your first exposure to live music. Needless to say, the grindcore vibe of Napalm Death wasn't as influential on the brothers as perhaps the Ramones or the Dead Kennedys would eventually become. And thank God for that. Not that Napalm Death doesn't rule, they definitely rule. It just doesn't fit the brothers as snugly as punk rock. They got a couple of friends together in 1993 and formed a band and simply called it Hives. They read about a skin condition in the dictionary, and at first they thought it was a lot more serious of a condition. The idea was to spread the band across the country like an infectious disease. Turns out it was more like allergic reaction, the band. Basically, they realized if they put the word "the" in front of the word Hives, it would sound a lot more like a proper band name. So they did just that, and they were right. The Hives were officially born. Or whatever. They were about a decade ahead of their time at the time. It wouldn't be until the early 2000s where it seemed like every single band out there on the charts was either a number band or a the band. The Hives were showmen from day one, so they all came up with stage names and personas. Pele would become known as Howlin' Pele. Nick would go by Nicholas Arson. Then we had Vigilante Carlston on guitar, Dr. Matt Destruction on bass, Chris Dangerous on drums, and that would be our The Hives lineup. Small town childhood best friends just playing rock and roll music. Poetry.
I think the coolest thing you can be as a rock band is unstoppable.
1994. What do high school kids who have a band do? If you said record a demo, you'd be correct. They made a punk rock DIY demo called Sounds Like Sushi, and it's amazing. You telling me children wrote this thing? It's tight, energetic punk rock. It's actually punk as with even a few ska bars thrown in there for good measure. 1995. The Hive signed with Swedish punk label Burning Heart. It was founded by somebody that has the same last name as the brothers, but it's unclear to me if Peter is related to the brothers. But having the same last name and both coming from the same 11,000 person town leads me to believe a little bit of a relation is highly probable. I could not confirm it. 1996, they put out their first EP on that label. It's called Oh Lord, When, How. It's much more punk rock flavored than the sound they'd eventually blow up off of, running with inspirations like Rancid, New Bomb Turks, and other Epitaph Cali-style punk rock bands. 1997. What do labels who have bands signed to them expect the bands to do? That's right, make a full-length album. Barely Legal started as Vigilante's first stage name, but by 1997, it would become the title of the band's debut LP. It was during this era where their love of irony would develop. They wore suits to subvert the whole punk thing. They lugged around a light bulb sign of the band name and would set it up at basement shows when basically just 30 people came to watch them. Little did they know that these ironic efforts would become earnest in just a few short years. 1998. Time to penetrate the American market. Burning Heart makes a deal with Epitaph to distribute The Hives in the US. The EP, aka Idiot, would be the piece of business to kick off that deal. The song aka Idiot was originally released on Barely Legal. They would use that song in a future comp to penetrate the UK market, but not for a couple years. It was clear aka Idiot was their key to the tower and they were twisting it in all the doors. But just because they're trying to grow the band, don't get it fricked or twisted. They're still super punk rock. What kind of records do punk bands like to make? Splits with other bands, of course. In '98, the Hives did a split with fellow punkers The Pricks called A Killer Amongst Us. This is the kind of stuff that's right down my alley. I love this split. Take a listen. This video is brought to you by my second channel. Over there on my second channel, I'm going to be doing quick daily style character-based videos and maybe a couple live streams and that kind of thing. The name of the channel is The Art of Slop. Follow the link in the description and go over and subscribe today for some slop content and some live streams. During the live streams, I like to kick back with the audience and take music requests. Stop by my live stream over on The Art of Slop. Okay, now back to the video. They spent the 90s being as legit of a punk rock band as you could possibly be, but by the time the 2000s were rolling around, the writing was on the wall. Garage rock was on the rise again in the US. The Hives would ultimately capitalize on that movement by dropping Veni, Vidi, Vicious. Along with the White Stripes and the Strokes, the Hives would ride this wave to the bank tenfold. Now, Americans were seeing how much energy and charisma this band has. Hey, I got a message tonight, I'm gonna send it. They would explode all over the US market with appearances on Conan, Leno, MTV, and much, much more. Now is a great time to introduce you to the band's honorary 6th member, Randy Fitzsimmons. All songs were written by Randy, but as the story goes, he just didn't want to tour. He'd simply write the album and then disappear into the night, just to re-emerge again when it came time to write more Hives music.
He's always been involved in all our albums and in the band from the get-go. It's like a 6th member or friend or foe or whatever he is, but he's always been there and he's not anymore, and it's really strange. And that's what, probably the main reason it took such a long time to make the album. We heard that he was dead. We found was supposedly like the grave trying to find him, and that's where we found the demos. And they are his demos. You can tell they sound like all his demos always sounded the same. I guess he always used like the same shit equipment. So we're pretty sure that they are like Randy Fitzsimmons originals. That was what was weird. Like we were touring and playing shows, but we didn't have new songs. Like there was no new songs, and we were kind of just like keeping it going, pretending like everything's gonna be okay, but it was pretty painful.
So historically, he was the one helping writing the songs and everything, and then he kind of goes off the radar, and someone said, "Wait a minute, is he?"
He always did though. Like between every record, he'd go off the radar for a year or two. While we were touring, and it made no sense, like kind of hanging out all the time. And he doesn't want to travel. Like that's one of the things, like why he's not like playing in the band and stuff. But it just took way longer this time, and he never surfaced again.
So where do you go you went to find these demos? There was actually like a monument to him or something?
I wouldn't call it a monument. It looked real homemade. It wasn't like a mausoleum or anything. More a little wooden kind of thing.
And the demos were in there.
Yeah.
Pele said in an interview that what they do is very similar to pro wrestling.
Were you into wrestling earlier?
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think kind of 10% of what we do is kind of wrestling.
Yeah.
So the story I just told you is what we call in wrestling kayfabe. It's fake. It's malarkey. It's made up tomfoolery, and I love every bit of it. Randy Fitzsimmons is just the pen name of guitarist Nicholas. I love how every aspect of this band is lore heavy, and if there isn't lore, they enrich it by making up lore. It's beautiful. Veni, Vidi, Vicious would reach 63 on the Billboard Top 200. American market successfully penetrated. The next market they'd focus on would be the UK. They'd drop the Your New Favorite Band comp to accomplish that mission. Again, they packaged up AKAIDIOT along with all the other bangers, and the formula was proven to be successful yet again. Hive's global domination in full effect. The Hives have blown up and outgrown their DIY roots. It's time to bring in the big guns. The Hives signed to a major and released Tyrannosaurus Hives in 2004. It's a little bit more pop-oriented in the sense that a chorus happens when you'd expect a chorus to happen. It's sharp, focused, pointed, and deliberate. It would go even crazier on the charts, reaching number 33 on Billboard and going to number 1 in their native Sweden. The Hives have firmly established themselves as a long-term rock band, and now all they have to do to keep going is just not break up. The Hives have become made men 11 years after starting in grade 7. 2007. So, the Hives have secured themselves as rock and roll made men, yeah? So, what do made men do? They work with other made men. The Hives would hit the studio with hit makers like the Neptunes and Timbaland to craft the Black and White album. It's by far their longest record, and to be honest, not really my taste. It might be just a little bit too polished to be a Hives album, in my opinion. It's still hella danceable, but the raw, magnetic charisma takes a massive nerf as they allocate all their XP this hard towards production. The Hives are a live band, not a studio band. Spin called them the best live band on the planet. The trick with the Hives is to capture the raw, live energy feeling on tape, which they've always been so good at. The Black and White album is good, but for my money, it's rather skippable. 2012, Lex Hives comes out on Columbia. It's their least well-received album, but I like it a lot more than the previous record. The album is good and the band is still rolling, but the garage boom is long gone by 2012. The Hives have built up an amazing reputation for their work ethic, songwriting, and live performances. In 2013, longtime bassist Dr. Matt Destruction was forced to step away due to undisclosed health concerns. Stepping up to pluck the fat strings would be former Randy bassist, adopting the name the Johan and Only. Randy is the band that made my personal favorite pop-punk album of all time. It's called You Can't Keep a Good Band Down. If you haven't heard that, you gotta make time for it today, buddy. Here's a taste. Nine years would pass before the Hives would release new music. But whatever you do not confuse this time with a hiatus. The band kept it going, touring, playing, rocking and a-rolling, until about 2023 when they would enter a studio owned by former ABBA member Benny Andersson to bang out an LP that would become known as The Death of Randy Fitzsimmons. On this record, it is revealed that the band members, aside from Pele, also have Fitzsimmons pseudonyms. But either way, this is The Death of Randy Fitzsimmons. A few random stories before we get to the current day. One time at a Dave Grohl New Year's Eve party, Hal and Pete puked in his hand while wearing a wolf head on his head after drinking too much Jägermeister. For some reason, everybody still tells this story. Another cool thing about the Hives is when they're touring, they like to get a Hives cover band to play the after party. Oh, you just watched the Hives live and you want more Hives? Well, come to the after party then. And doing that led to the joke of possibly franchising the Hives to have a version of the band in every continent. And I think that would be very funny. 2005 is upon us and the Hives are on the prowl yet again. They have such respect for the Beastie Boys, especially the New York hardcore stuff, so they wanted to get a Beastie Boy to help out on the next project. Mike D stepped up to the table, and that decision alone creates more hype for the Hives than I've personally felt since they first blew up on the North American scene. The album is set to release in August on Pious Records, a sister company of UMG. On the cover, the guys are appropriately adorned in full king attire. Before I wrap up, I'll give you a quick personal ranking of their albums, from least enjoyed to most enjoyed. The ranking goes like this: Black and White album, Lex Hives, Sounds Like Sushi demo, Oh Lord When How EP, the AKAIDIOT EP, The Death of Randy Fitzsimmons, Tyrannosaurus Hives, Barely Legal, and number 1, Veni Vidi Vicious.
I'm allergic to coffee, by the way.
That's decaf, Jason. We got you decaf.
Is decaf still coffee?
So, what makes the Hive so special anyway, and what can we learn from them? Well, it depends on who's asking and who's listening. From where I sit, I think there is something for everyone when it comes to the Hives. They show us the value of never giving up, but also inspire us because they were able to live their dreams in the biggest way possible with their best friends all across the world. They've had a very aspirational career that any one of us would be lucky to have something that even somewhat resembles it. But what matters more than even that is, of course, the music itself. Whether you're a true blue hardcore DIYer, they represent you. If you're a rockhead or a pop nut, their work will speak to you because it rocks so hard and has an incredible astute knowledge of song structure and hooks. They're for the rebels. They're for the dancers. They're for everyone who's ever been daring enough to speak using their own voice. If you weren't any of those things, the Hives had a way of awakening it from deep inside you. Thank you, the Hives, for always staying mysterious, intriguing, and inspiring. And thank you everyone out there for watching this video. Goodbye, see you later, and have a good one.
I'm Mr. King Dice. I'm the gamest in the land. I never play nice. I'm the devil's right-hand man.